Good evening. Here's the latest on this Sunday. He's been branded a racist for his statements condemning whites, Catholics, and Jews. Today, a black man tried to silence Khalid Abdul Muhammad with bullets.
Now, you can see right there the former Nation of Islam spokesman being carried in for treatment. He was wounded, but late word is he is in stable condition and alert. Now, again, as we mentioned, the controversial former aide to the Nation of Islam leader, Louis Farrakhan, was shot following a speech in Riverside. Dozens of people were outside, as you see here, upset over his speech last night in Crenshaw denouncing Jews. And earlier, as Muhammad entered the auditorium, he was confronted by one of the protesters. Muhammad was suspended by the Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan last year for saying Jews and Arabs were the bloodsuckers of the black community.
One supporter described the shooting. He was standing very close.
I don't know, man. It happened quick. He just came out of nowhere, started shooting.
Who is the shooter? Do you know?
We don't know who the shooter is.
What's he look like?
He looked like a person with a gun that was shooting. That's all I seen. I don't know. All I seen was a black gun.
We've been standing there no more than 5 to 7 minutes answering questions when we heard the first volley of shots ring out.
And then pop, 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 and then pop. And then people, were just running, screaming, crying. His bodyguard, jumped on him, surrounded him, and his little boy was yelling.
Meantime, the gunman was beaten by some members of the crowd,
And stomping the head of this alleged man who shot him out. And they were basically they drugged the shooter out by the nape of his neck, blood dripping, from the people screaming.
Then he starts beating Bess in the head with the gun, trying to beat him to death. And the crowd is stomping him and kicking him until he's unconscious. And they think he's dead.
Well, they didn't finish him off. They eventually allowed the gunman to be removed. He's described as a black man, about 5'10". He was dressed in a dark suit and a bow tie.
Pat, you told us earlier the gunman is in custody right now. Have police said anything else about him?
Not at all. Police here are being very tight-lipped, and nobody is saying anything. From UC Riverside people to the police, nobody has really had that much to say.
Good morning, everyone. Startling new information now gathered in the investigation of the attempted assassination of suspended Nation of Islam leader Khalid Abdul Muhammad. There may be indications that the attempt on Muhammad's life at UC Riverside last weekend was part of a conspiracy.
Muhammad. This revelation will only add fuel to the speculation that some sort of conspiracy might be involved, and here's why. If the gunman was indeed standing here, this is what he would have seen, a distance of about 30 yards or so, and he would have seen the entire path upon which Muhammad was supposed to use upon an agreed-to security plan to enter the gymnasium. The Khalid Student Association, who brought Muhammad here, believe this proves a conspiracy is involved. That the alleged triggerman, James Edward Bess, locked his keys in his car prior to the shooting. He called police 45 minutes after Muhammad began speaking, and they helped unlock his car. A .30-06 rifle was later found in that vehicle, and 2 more handguns were found elsewhere on the campus. Those who believe the shooting was a conspiracy say the weapons indicate that more than one gunman had to be involved.
Senate Intelligence Committee in private session approved his assassination attempt. The National Security Council approved his assassination attempt. The President of the United States signed off on it. The ADL, the JDL, the LaRoches, and elements of the nation were responsible for setting him up for it. You had permission to take this tape, sell it, put it anywhere. You have the character to stand up against it. You might file it. 10 years from now, you might use it.
Bess is the shooter. James Bess, James Edward Bess, Minister Bess, Minister James X, Minister James something X. He has many names he utilized. Right, comes down from Seattle.
Bess is a former Nation of Islam minister from Seattle. He was removed from his post there 3 years ago after he allegedly misused his position. He also has a long rap sheet, including a conviction for killing his own brother. He says he did it in self-defense.
Abraham Lincoln said, and I quote,
but the question still remains, why did Bess, still considered a Nation of Islam supporter, turn on another Nation of Islam brother?
I worked very closely with him in Seattle.
This woman, who wants her identity concealed, says she knows why Bess wanted Muhammad dead.
I know that he was obsessed with being the national spokesman to the minister. I know that he did not care for Khalid Muhammad, and he saw him as a traitor.
Why didn't he care for Mr. Muhammad?
I'm not sure. He felt that Khalid Muhammad did not represent the minister. He did not obey the minister. Just things like that.
And she's suspicious of Bess, a man she remembers never having any money, suddenly flashing thousands of dollars.
Suddenly he got a new car and kind of quite a bit of money. So maybe he did get some, he financed it, maybe he did it himself. But other than that, I wouldn't see him having the capabilities of pulling this off by himself.
D1.
Greetings. My name is James Bess. I'm a preacher of freedom, justice, and equality. I'm a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings as presented by himself, as well as a student under the tutelage and guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Could you share with us the first time you conceived of murdering Dr. Khalid and what triggered that thought?
Well, what triggered it? The constant interference and cooperation between my former wife and Dr. Khalid in creating problems for my children. But I had a problem with both Laverne and Dr. Khalid over that. That was when I decided I'll eliminate him out of this child's life.
There are rumors that you worked with the Jews to murder Dr. Khalid. Is this true?
No, it's not true. I've never worked for hire to harm or to kill anyone.
And that's interesting too, because back in November we established that Bess got between $20,000 and $30,000 cash. Mm-hmm. What's interesting about November is that's a college speech. Yeah. He said that he had left for 2 days without saying where he was going.
There's no evidence. None exists, because it never happened, that I worked for the Jews or with the Jews to harm Dr. Khalid. That's not true.
D1.
And by the way, you know,
that the guy who trained John Muhammad to shoot was the same guy who shot Khalid out in California, out at the prison in California, when he was at that college back in '94. Same guy. Because they flashed that he was trained, the Pentagon said he was an expert marksman when they caught John Muhammad, but then NBC News came on and said that we don't have no records of him or the Army training him at all. But he was trained by the same guy who shot Khalid Muhammad. You see what I'm saying? And this is linking into the Israeli Mossad. Got something to do with them Jews. See what I'm saying? Because it was when Khalid was shot, a Jew came up to the hospital because they beat this guy to injure his life. Now remember we talked about MK Ultra. They say when Khalid got shot, they grabbed this guy and they put every kind of whip ass a person can humanly think of. For them minutes they had him on that ground, they put every kind of whip ass a human could think of on this nigga's ass. And they said it was almost like he was in another world. He couldn't even feel it. They beat him. They said they was inventing shit on him. And they said he couldn't even feel it. We talk about MK Ultra. MK Ultra. Y'all all right? Now.
But the ones who get him to do it, anybody know you're going to get within 5 feet of shooting somebody. FOI and everybody else going to kill you, stomp you to death when you run out of bullets. Everybody knows that. So you got to put the kamikaze factor in there.
So you brought up MK Ultra.
Yes.
MK Ultra was a government program run by the Central Intelligence Agency. Originally started as something called Bluebird in 1948-49, morphed into Artichoke, and then in 1952 became MK Ultra. It was a mind control program, a brainwashing program. The CIA was trying to learn how to control people's behavior without their knowledge. Now, this all came out in Senate and congressional hearings in the 70s. It was exposed, but nobody knew about it until 1974 when Seymour Hersh, the New York Times reporter, reported it on the front page of the paper. So their main objective was to create what they called hypno-programmed assassins, people who would kill on command, popularly known as Manchurian Candidates, after a book that was written in 1962 and later became a movie and then a movie again. The people would be, through drugs and hypnotism, the objective was to get people to go and commit an act of murder against their moral code and have no memory of their programming and be amnesic even of the act after the fact often. That was just that was their main goal, but they were also trying to create couriers, people, military people that they could implant messages, send them, across dangerous areas where there were, at that time it was the Vietnam War, and deliver messages and then have them wiped from their memory in case they were captured. They had all kinds of objectives. So
Your brother Steve Coker been giving the devil hell for a long, long time. We know that every president has had crackers behind the scenes who do the digging and the searching and the research. But we have a research hitman. We have a man who's not afraid of the devil to name names and pin the tail on the donkey instead of pinning the tail on the donkey. Brother Steve Coker and his wonderful family. Quickly, let's give them a black hand here tonight. Brother Steve Coker. We love you, Brother Steve.
Our African brother, soldier, Steve Coker, was a black research scientist, investigative journalist, expert lecturer, brilliant orator, lifetime activist, and true revolutionary. He had climbed his way up the Chicago political ladder and earned a position as an aide to Mayor Eugene Sawyer in the late 80s. That was until Coakley publicly accused Ashkenazi Jews of conspiring with Anglo-Saxon powers for Zionist and white supremacist interests toward a new world order. The public onslaught began, coming from powerful Zionist forces, and pressured all public figures to cancel Brother Coakley for what they deemed anti-Semitic statements. Steve Coakley was officially whiteballed from American society by Zionist interests and repudiated by the mainstream black community due to this immense political pressure. Coakley was fired from his job as a mayor's aide and whiteballed from the entire political Chicago community.
One guy that came here too. Farrakhan didn't. Farrakhan hung your brother Coakley. The transcript follow. May 9th, 1988. What did he do? What did he do? Stephen Coakley in what he called a conspiracy against black elected officials. He saved his toughest criticism for black leaders. Black politicians. Said, fire him. Fire him. See, it sounded to me like Judas said, crucify him. Crucify him. What is his crime? Well, he's a racist. He's a bigot. Shut your damn mouth. Who the hell are you to call a black man a racist with the blood of the black man dripping from your head?
You see, Coakley had thoroughly studied topics such as the New World Order, the Trilateral Commission, the Rhodes-Rothschild connection, the Time Warner conspiracy, and multiple high-profile assassination conspiracies. Through his thorough research, Coakley had discovered something astounding, which he determined was a worldwide conspiracy of white supremacists and Zionist powers waging a war on Africans aiming for genocide. Shortly after Coakley was fired from his position, he would soon discover records of the Sigma Pi Phi fraternity, also known as the Boule, and he began what became a lifelong mission of exposing this elitist black group as a secret society with suspicious origins modeled closely after the Skull of Bones fraternity. He claimed these members took a sacred pledge to serve as a vanguard for white supremacy, and in return, they'd rule over the confused black masses by steering them away from true black revolution. He condemned the U.S. government and black conspirators for their involvement in many assassinations, including those of Malcolm X, Dr. King, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, Patrice Lumumba, Harold Washington, Fred Hampton, and many others. Coke held no punches, stirring controversy wherever he spoke. He eventually began to also scrutinize black organizations and question their true intentions, such as the NAACP, the National Urban League, Rainbow Push Coalition, black colleges and fraternities, the New Black Panther Party, and yes, even the Nation of Islam under Minister Farrakhan wasn't exempt from the wrath of Coakley's steady flow of accountability, which he placed on any black leader who seemed to be straying away from true black liberation and revolution. Coke, no joke. When Coakley speaks, people listen because his research was impeccable. His delivery was always sharp. His theories made perfect sense. His facts connected the dots, and his motives were completely sincere. Coakley's legacy and track record with us, African people, had earned the respect of the black masses, which gives him more than anyone else the right to speak on this topic and share his expertise. In the case of the attempted assassination of Dr. Khalid, Coakley's theory was simple. 1, there was more than one shooter, and it was clearly a conspiracy. 2, elements within the Nation of Islam and other organizations helped set the climate for Dr. Khalid to be murdered. And 3, the conspiracy to kill Dr. Khalid goes all the way to the top of the U.S. government and beyond. Coakley speaks.
The Coakley theory. But I stand up on everything I show. I stand up on everything I say. The other crew is hit and run.
Well, certainly I don't believe there's any conspiracy by law enforcement agencies.
Let's go back. There's a tape over here that I interviewed Khalid Muhammad Tuesday night. Ugh, I get the chills every time I talk about this. The anniversary of Khalid being attempted assassinated is May 30th of next month. 94. It'll be 3 years. And Khalid Muhammad was packing them in. Everywhere he went, from the King College speech. The way the intelligence community worked, they lifted up his profile that the House and the Senate debated the resolutions to condemn him. The Senate Intelligence Community, Senate Intelligence Committee in private session approved his assassination attempt. The National Security Council approved his assassination attempt. The President of the United States signed off on it. The ADL, the JDL, the LaRoches, and elements of the nation were responsible for setting him up for it. Check. Doesn't mean that everybody was in on it, but just some elements around those days were making it sure that he would be isolated enough that when they shot him, they say, he got what he had coming, talking about that no good cracker pope. So once they lifted his profile up high enough, he's packing them in everywhere he goes. Now he's got to be killed.
News why the important is so really important for you. It's half of Cisco's trying to know whether it was a coincidence.
I don't travel with an entourage. I don't travel with security, but I think anyone who comes to do me any harm might be very surprised.
That surprise may have been a brutal beating for Beth, but Khalid Muhammad and his 5 bodyguards are now recovering from some serious gunshot wounds. In Los Angeles, Stephanie Frederick, BET News.
Was there a conspiracy to kill Dr. Khalid? Damn right. But we aren't in question over this. And I really should have started by saying the tentative conclusion is that there absolutely was a conspiracy. Before they could kill Martin, they had to kill Malcolm. Right. Yeah. You couldn't do that in reverse. Yeah. If the warrior was still living when the leader died, he'd start the war. Right. There's probably no other brother in the whole nation of Islam who can activate the military side both within and without present members and older members. All right. Okay. And brother Dr. Khalid. That's right. Yes, you don't pull off no shooting which can disrupt the whole society unless the National Security Council can clear away the media, can clear away the police, can clear away the military, can clear away all those things that need to be in place that give the goal on an assassination. This ain't got nothing to do with the lone nut assassin. Deviate a little bit and slip up to a part where the Hunkies come out and they said, well, the reason Beth shot Khalid was because Khalid had suspended him from the nation. That is absolutely not true. We'll talk about the 2-3 other people that were seen with guns during shooting that day. There was some FOI who violated FOI policy. Some strange shit happened that weekend. This reporter who gave a personal testimony in the Sentinel this weekend said he saw the man with the bow tie with the gun that jumped in the red car and drove off when the shooting broke out. Understand the dilemma. When Dr. Khalid goes to do the Donahue show in New York, a memorandum is put out that no FOI is to be in the audience.
They were told that they couldn't secure you in bow ties.
They shouldn't give the nation image. They could secure me, but they couldn't look like the Nation of Islam. The orders from Chicago. So they had to be out of uniform, either no bow tie or wear a straight tie.
The dilemma is that the minister has said that Khalid has got to be covered. But the other dilemma is, if you cover him too well, the whites will believe that you're still in support of him when you've already said you aren't.
It's more important to understand that when I arrived in a security motorcade, that I realized that none of the officers from Mosque number 27 in Los Angeles were present. Me looking immediately and not seeing a captain or a lieutenant or not even a squad leader that I recognized from the headquarters mosque. So immediately I tell them, stop the caravan right here. I want to get out, not to go and hide somewhere. I want to get out and get right in the middle of the protest so I can coordinate the security.
When you look at it, you can see he's got a striped tie on, a striped straight tie. The gunman wearing dark suit and bow tie. Bess had a disproportionate amount of money, $25,000 he had received. He was in a car that was not his. He was at the scene and got locked out of his car. And the police, without him even having a registration slip, without him even having ownership, he didn't even have the keys, jimmied the car and opened the car up so he could get the guns out the car to come into the plaza area.
This was the sack with the 3 9mm in it.
Right, that allegedly was found in the area.
But the 30-06 rifle with the scope was still supposedly in the vehicle that the cops opened, jimmied the lock to open to let Bess into while the lecture was going on.
And what was Martin King shot with?
30-06.
30-06. And he was called on the balcony at what time? 3 minutes to 6. He was dead at what time? And Khalid, it was 6 o'clock when you was outside of that building. 6 o'clock. The minister goes to Vegas. Well, we in LA, the minister goes to Vegas, and Irv Rubin of the JDL, the military arm of the ADL, who was at the Riverside College that day, and in a key piece of film, with Khalid confronting them, the one boy who eventually had the little penknife on him is drawing back like he's going to go to his coat as Khalid walks up to him, right out in front of the venue at Riverside College. And that was a very intriguing moment. The Anti-Defamation League, who went to the Riverside police and asked them not to let the brothers search at the door. Which sounds like a weird request.
So immediately I said, stop the car. They didn't want to stop the car. They wanted me to stay in the so-called security caravan. They wanted me to stay in the car, which would have come down, would have made a right turn on the side of the building where I was to speak, and would have gone to this exact spot in the back of the building, which would have been directly across from the cutout shrubbery and even the chain link fence.
Which had a hole in it.
Had been cut out with wire cutters. We would have taken a right turn with the caravan, gone to that backstage door. Nobody would have known what happened in the back of the building.
There you go.
The shot could have been made either from a prone position, from the bushes, or a standing position. Probably wouldn't have even known where the shot came from because, as Brother Jamal was just pointing out, it was from a knoll. It was a grassy knoll.
And just one last thing in closing. This is the brother at the fence. $10. 2, 3. Okay. Look at the bushes. Look at the trees. Good. Look at that. Fresh cut wood. Fresh cut wood. Brand new fresh cut to make that hole. Remember, it's bush. That's the actual shooting spot right off of those railings. Police drug vests right up that walkway there. This is actual cut in the fence, and the security, we pulled the logs of security. They have 3 shifts, no security log show anyone checking the peripheral of the fence, noticing a hole in it.